everybody. My name is Robert Savino. I'm a member of the board of the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and I greet you today on behalf of our executive director, Caitlin Shea, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and welcome you to the sixth gathering of Series 3's Triangulation Journey, Poets Building Bridges. Poets Building Bridges is produced by Poetrybay Productions for the Walt Whitman Birthplace and led by George Wallace, who's been the writer in residence for 14 years now. The Birthplace offers many events. A lot of them are on Zoom. I recommend you check the website out at www.waltwhitman.org. And as always, I thank all the poets and all the guests who are joining us on this journey. I thank Bonnie, our technical director back at the Birthplace. And as always, I thank you, George, for the continuance of this program, the continuance of support of the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and the contributions that you make to poetry throughout the community and worldwide. And now I turn you over to the man, George Wallace.
Thank you very much. All right, great. Thank you, Robert Savino, also a former Suffolk County Poet Laureate and a fine writer in his own right. So I'm grateful for his Master of Ceremonies role in this and other things that we do. And I'm very thankful to the Walt Birthplace for continuing to support the interface of local, regional, and national and international poetry in many different capacities, including this particular effort, which is Poets Building Bridges, now in its third season, as Robert mentions. I'll ask you just to turn off your microphones until it's your turn to speak, so there's no background noise, and we'll get started in just a minute. Those of you who are with us from the various groups that we're going to be hearing from today, and those of you who are on Zoom as audience members, thank you all for coming. Feel free to chat with each other on the sidelines in the chat room. That's one of the hidden benefits of having this particular program, is the opportunity to network a little bit, even back channel if you want to talk to each other privately through the Zoom session. You can do that and make any connections and complimentary comments that you wish to make for each other. That's part of what I hope we'll see occur as part of this session. Poets Building Bridges is about real triangulation and building relationships, not just like dropping in for an hour and a half into a Zoom session, which then turns into an ephemeral moment in your life as a poet. But it is an opportunity to actually develop relationships and further the conversation between yourself and other people. So I encourage you, as you go through this next hour and a half, each of you here, to go ahead and do that. So use the chat room freely as we're proceeding. This is the midway point in Poets Building Bridges, Season 3, 2024. And we'll take a month or two off in the summer, and we'll resume the second half with the fall. And it's a very exciting session that we have today. An excellent complement of poets from a wide range of locations and interests and backgrounds. Most of them, in one way or another, geographic. Often we have a magazine representing their people, but today it's legitimately 3 or 4 poets from either from one geographic location, in this case Long Island regional poets, or people from what we broadly and probably inaccurately term the diaspora of poets from a particular country, whether it's from Romania in this particular case, or Malta in this particular case, or other places as well. So that compounds the geographic diversity and networking that happens here, because there may be somebody here who's of Romanian origin and is in Canada or California. There may be somebody here with a Maltese background from Malta or from some other place. So we're going to find out about that. And this is an opportunity to do that. So not going to take it any further than that, because I want to get started. It's 12:06 and we've got a half an hour each for each of the groups. So we're going to start, as I said earlier, with the Romanian diaspora poets, led by a good friend of mine here in New York, and from New Jersey as well, the Red Wheelbarrow Poets in Rutherford, New Jersey. A very, very talented writer and organizer of events who I've worked with in many capacities. And I think many of you know, even if you're not from her particular group today. Please welcome Claudia Serea.
Hi, everyone. So welcome. Thanks for spending your afternoon with poetry and with us, with our poetry, and I'm looking forward to a terrific reading. So without, I'll just get right into it and introduce our first reader. Adina Dabija was born in Aiud, Romania. She worked as a journalist in Bucharest before she pursued her studies in journalism in Quebec, Canada. She now lives in New York, where she practices acupuncture and hypnosis. Her first book, Poezia Păpușă, was awarded a Bucharest Writers Association Guild Prize. In 1998, she published Stare Nediferențiată in 2010, for which she was awarded a Tomis Prize in Constanța, Romania. In 2011, she published Beauty Beast, North Shore Press, her first collection of poetry in English. And in 2012, her first novel, Shaman, was published by Polirom. Some of her recent writings and interviews can be found at soulcenter.com. Please welcome Adina Dabija, my good friend.
Hello, everyone. I'm very grateful to read a few poems today. I have to say I'm very grateful for Claudia for translating my first poetry book, and she's a wonderful friend. So I'm going to read a poem called The Passage into Light from an hopefully upcoming book of poetry that I'm preparing and looking for a publisher. And this is a poem about flowers, and you can see I have some fresh flowers that I just gathered from my garden. So the poem is called The Passage into Light. The lily opened this morning, long pistil, stretching up to the sun, screaming, "Here, now." "Don't be so shameless," says the stinging nettle. "Don't cast your shadow above us. Cut that arrogant drunkenness, so the timid violet can receive a few rays. How her delicate body needs some sun love. I can find thousands of ways to reach where I'm needed," loves the sun. "The iris is my sensual roller coaster. To the daisy, I am giving a simple country boy hug. The sunflower is abandoning herself to me. Forget-me-not makes me lose myself in the shade. The voluptuous rose keeps me guessing, and to the royal lily I bow. My one embrace comes down as thousands different kisses. If the violet would see me through the lily's eyes, she would burn alive. She veils herself in blue, so I can slide only a reflection underneath her shy petals. There are parts of your soul that need to spend time in darkness. This deep longing for light makes the garden push up from the ground to the sky, spring after spring, seeking ecstasy. The body and the soul of the world play hide and seek in the garden. There is laughter and play in every corner. The secret dream of every flower is to be reborn, lily. Look for the secret passage of shadow into light. That's where body meets soul. Be that. All right, and the next poem is called Gold for Free. She radiates bliss as she's checking her text messages. Her smile fills the entire room, and she's not even here. She is powerful. She is mystical. Oh boy, who wouldn't die to be even a misspelled letter, tied with those long curvy nails? so fast that the world spinning fades in comparison. And who in their right mind would still wait with a bowl of fresh raspberries in their hands, hopeful, after selecting only the hard ones for her and keeping the crushed ones? I surrounded my head with spears to wake me up soon. The last poem is called The Rotten Apple. It's still from the garden cycle. Actually, it's probably going to be the last poem of this cycle. My upcoming poetry book is called Songs from My Garden. So here is the last song. The Rotten Apple. I am the rotten apple. Don't pick me, I will spoil your bunch. Succulent, lavish. I am the swim scene of ants. Worms dig luxurious tunnels into my flesh, carved surfaces for the spirit to play within itself. I am the untouchable. I am not for your pie. I lie here in grass, smiling death, my teeth exposed, white seeds facing those bigger teeth up in the sky, the stars, white to white, bone to bone, only night between us, pure mystery. How many lives in one death? Ugliness saves me every day from a bunch of hypocrites. I am not charming and appealing. I repel the crowd. Only the true farmer and the honest worm saw my real face, immortal beauty. I am not for your basket. I am not a fallen fruit of knowledge. I am from the other tree. My lineage is not the forbidden apple of paradise. He started this world and I end it. A bite from me brings me back home to immortality. I am hidden in plain sight. Death bringing back life. Listen to the wind that shakes the branches. It whispers, I am the rotten apple. Let spirit be the white bone of existence. Thank you.
Wow, that was tremendous. That was beautiful, Adina. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our second reader, Ioana Ieronim. Is a Romanian poet, essayist, and translator. She's the author of narrative poetry in Triumph of the Water Witch and Lavinia and Her Daughters, a Carpathian elegy, was published in the US, as well as the online omnivorous syllables, When Big is Not Beautiful, Ceausescu's House of the People. Her poetry and essays were published in translation in more than 10 countries. She wrote studies on the Balkan and Israeli theater and translated poetry and drama from Shakespeare to Tony Kushner. Ieronim won the Poetry Prize of the Romanian Academy. She's a member of the Pen Center and the Writers' Union in Romania. Please welcome Ioana Ieronim.
Thank you. I'm extremely excited and very happy to be in this distinguished group, and thank you, Claudia, for including me. I have a bunch of poems here, and after listening to Adina, which I so much enjoyed, I would have liked to hear even more. I will first read to you a poem about pears. It's not flowers, but it is pears, and it's not summer, but it is winter. And you're going to see how it is. Pears in January. Wrapped in silky paper, these pears, a gift in high winter. Pears sweet and juicy, personally packed by Maria Nava in neat rhomboid cradles like jewelry. Maria Nava of Oregon, as the card reads. A note flutters free from the box. Do you notice unique markings on our Royal Riviera pears? They are wind scars, the result of high winds whipping tree branches. These same winds spread devastating fires, destroying homes and displacing countless people. I hold a pear. I touch its scars of survival, the fruit harvested by Maria with her skilled, scarred hands. And here a prayer. May we open our eyes to keep and nurture the myriad of silent things that nurture us, while we take them for granted and only praise and love them dearly, desperately, when they are at a point of no return. And now, one poem that is called In the City. The city was Bucharest, but it is in the city. I still sleep on a mattress made from our sheep's wool. I rest against pillows filled with down from my grandmother's geese. They used to gather noisy, hungry around her, coming back from the river in the evening. I sit on a fluffy blanket made of wool from our sheep, cherga or plocad, they call it. Our sheep long since gone. The city is snowed in at this time. Plows advance slowly in the on the main avenues. It is snowing. I keep warm and good among these surviving things. I try to plan what samples to keep, what snapshots to take, what captions to write and store in cloud for the younger ones in the family. The age of a scribe. You are closed in people's lives. You live their day more intensely than they do. You bear their blessings and their cross in words as old as time, as blunt as an ultimatum, as fresh as wounds bleeding live. What meter could measure your age between the solitude of writing, like Euripides in a cave, and life itself in inertial motion, greedy, wasteful, wasted? What scales will measure your years, wounded healer, you, the timeless one who has written? And one more poem. High at the hour of Zoom. High at the hour of Zoom. High at the hour of Zoom over 2 continents and an ocean. We have looked into the abyss and the abyss looked back. Our fingers clutched around a handful of captive words, seeds, a poem, a charm, a spell for the narrow passage. One galaxy dies while astronomers are watching. The snow-covered mountain of our childhood melts to the bone even as we speak. Tomorrow, the minute will be 59 seconds. We are prepared for it. We profess the art of brevity. We live in suspended time, tempo rubato, without the promise of return. We've just looked into the abyss and its breath hit our faces. We tightened our grip on a handful of words, a poem, a charm, a spell to keep the closing door open. 41 seeds, 41 brethren. If you know, give out true what's in store for us. 41 de bobi, 41 de frați, voi dacă știți, bine să dați ce ne așteaptă. So, thank you.
41 de Bob, I know that one from my grandmother, my mother-in-law. That's a powerful spell to guess the future, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ioana. Beautiful, beautiful. Let me introduce our third reader, Mihaela Moscaliuc. She is a Pushkar Prize winner. Congratulations, Mihaela. Just recently we found out about the win for this year. Author of the poetry collection Cemetery Inc., Immigrant Model and Father Dirt, translator of Liliana Ursus' Clay and Star and Carmelia Leonte's The Hiss of the Viper, as well as editor of Insane Devotion on the writing of Gerald Stern, and co-editor of Borderlines, Poems of Migration. She is Associate Professor of English at Monmouth University, New Jersey, and Translation Editor at Plume. Please welcome Mihaela Moscaliuc.
Thank you so much, and beautiful reading. Thank you, Adina and Ioana and Claudia. Such an honor to be here with all of you, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the reading. So I'm going to read 4 poems, and I'll start with a poem for my son, who is upstairs somewhere getting ready to go surfing. The title is The Standard Blues, and it's a riff on blues standards. A number of poems from the new collection coming out in 2026 with Alice James Books. Were some of the poems are inspired by Koenig's Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, and so this is a title taken from him. We're not pollinating, dispersing seeds, or sparing us mosquito bites. Bats roost in collectives. Mothers camp in maternities to birth together and pamper their single pups. Back to the nursery from foraging, each locates hers out of millions, guided by scent and vocals on sonar scales human can't perceive. To fear the future less, I dream myself into a bat mother, so even I gouge, I may stoop you out of multitudes on frequencies you thought I'd never catch. And a poem from my parents who've been trying for the last 20 minutes to get on Zoom from Romania and can't. So I told them I'm gonna send them the recording. And it's called Returning the Key. Whenever I phone, they've returned from the cemetery, swept the grave, relit candles, checked for new neighbors. On the most recent call, she whispers, "Can't believe the change in your father, suddenly so keen to come along for company. The pandemic has expanded the circle of dead friends. Funeral packages aimed at adult children, 2/3 living abroad, advertise Zoom farewells that stay within tradition, but bypass the funeral procession. I'm home now, an interlude palpable and brief. Our elders are pissed and wave off car rides, insist they have all day to ascend the hill. The dead are not going anywhere. At the grave, we unwind on our bench, then get to work. Dad trims rose trellises, while Mom and I stuff vases with meadow daisies and dust the ceramic photos of 4 generations, some of us not yet dead. To pass time, I mentioned the Korean mock funerals, how wrapped in linen shrouds and locked in caskets, the not yet dead meditate toward a second chance. Mom, amused, walks away to fill the watering can, and that's when Dad unburdens. He's contracted for cremation in the capital, local firm for delivery. For our sake, so my brother and I won't need to drop everything and fly back. Death shouldn't tether us. A graveside, like a hearth, requires care, weeding and conversation, candles, food, gossip. Mother will anguish, but she'll come around. We pour enough water to quench relatives' thirst, slip the candle box key under a rock, bid farewell. Neither those above nor those below need to know that my spirit still plans its exit through this hole. And here's a poem for my brother, who is turning 50 tomorrow. When I apologize for having no poems about him, my brother says, "Keep it that way, sis." Or maybe I could write about someone else's brother to capture the cruelty with which I banished you to the closet for failing to play my obedient kindergartner, and later steered your slight chickenpoxed body into the swarm of the overheated playground. parents had no choice but to leave you under my watch despite the ominous beginning. At 3, edged behind the bedroom door, I'd siphon every drop of milk from your bottle, then place it back between your lips. By the time they discovered me, they'd worried sick about the force at work to famish you. Too long has passed to gift you now a poem of common sibling rivalry. So here's to the Pennsylvanian farm pig brought back this winter in the trunk of your Tesla, singed and bloody. In the finished basement, carped and brushed with holy water, you tended to the work. Dawn found you tying sausages, portioning steaks, labeling toba, leber, kaltabosh, jambon, the plum tree shavings in the smoker stacked with peppered Kaiser and boya-coated slana, neighbors eyeing suspiciously through slats. At Christmas, we bit together into blood sausage to feed grandmother's spirit. She's ecstatic. A drip of envy returns. You still know better how to win her heart, no matter how many poems I write her, no matter how witty or delicious the pigs in them, or how smooth my word grinder, how sharp the knives that portion lines, how cruel free. And the last poem for my husband, Michael Waters, for our upcoming 25th anniversary, April 2020. And the epigraph from Evan Boland: let no love poem ever come to the threshold. Which incidents of body shall I leave you? Below the tallow sun, gannets eviscerate sea life to sustain their sky life. Same thought courses everyone's mourning. Death, please not today. I soap off chinolas, holding the shore within sight. You sweep the runny yolk under a bread crust. I've slipped on a flouncy dress and lipstick, though there's no place we can go. We whisk ourselves away from news and practice breathing on mirrors. I breathe into your nape and call it kissing. You breathe out and out and out. When needles consecrated our love with Brancusi's kiss, we didn't know the artist had sculpted the lover's embrace to shape the letter M in muerte, death. If you're to harvest the inked skin from my arm, love, dry and stretch it in the Caribbean sun before you frame. When you parcel out the rest, remember a synecdoche of bones for my ancestral plot, a fistful of ash as mulch for what I failed to grow. The rest, our children should add to your remains under that oak tree in the season of chanterelles, so we may bring one mouthful of earth to ecstasy. Thank you so much.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Adina, Dabija, Ioana, Ieronim, Mihaela, Moscaliuc. It's terrific. Thanks for this beautiful reading. I have a few minutes and I'm going to read a few poems as well. From my recent book, In Those Years No One Slept, I'll read the title poem, and it starts with an epigraph from Federico Garcia Lorca. Out in the sky, no one sleeps, no one, no one. Some, like my grandfather, slept standing, hiding among cornstalks and listening for dogs. The woods were full of women dressed in black. The woods were full of veiled women who'd come to him and ask, "Did you see my son? Is he still alive?" The woods were full of veiled women and young men sleeping, standing behind every tree trunk. The woods were full. Young men wore rifles and slept standing behind every tree trunk. The women were dressed in black, with large wings on their backs. Did you see my son, my husband, brother? The woods were full. So were the cemeteries. Everyone slept standing. So, to keep with the summer theme, I wanted to read a poem about spending summers at my grandma's house, where she grew tomatoes that she sold to the government to be exported to the export. And then, so this is titled, "We Ate the Ugly Ones." The good ones we picked and handled like eggs, sorted them by size and color, and placed them in rows in wooden crates. The Aztecs called them tomato, fat water with navel. The Italians pomodoro, apple of gold. And the scientists called them by their Latin name, Solanum lycopersicum, wolf peach of the sun. My grandmother called the tomatoes Platagen. If they were good looking, they were worth more money. Her knotty hands, stained green from the sap, used a soft rag to shine each Platagen like wiping a child's face. Then nestled it carefully in its tutu of waxed paper. We ate the ugly ones, the scratched, the blemished, cracked, spotted, the overripe, the warted ones, tasty, fat from water and summer sun. The days were long, the lines to weigh the small crates longer, the money short. The yellow-green tomatoes went to export and ripened on the way. I wonder if anyone from the West knew when they picked them up from the supermarket shelf, weighing in hands the round red hearts. Did anyone know whose hearts they were? Where they came from behind the iron curtain? I wonder if any of the ripe ones from the internal market would land on the dictator's plate. And if it did it bleed a little, sweet juice under the knife? And so I too have a brother that I see every time I go to Romania. And we talk about everything. He also likes to be kept out of my poems. And this is a poem I dedicated to him. That's titled "The Moon, My Brother and I." The moon, my brother and I sit outside at the wooden table covered with a white cloth and drink wine and moonshine from shiny tumblers. And we figure out the Americans, the Russians, the Romanians, the EU, and the Chinese. We're well versed in this from decades behind the Iron Curtain. We know all about special interests, corporation, the military complex, stolen revolutions, the FSB, the Mossad, the CIA, the nationalists, and the globalists. Pour me some more freedom, baby brother. Alcohol makes us understand more. In its glaze, we see clearer for a few brief moments and agree. We're fucked. And we sleep well tonight, happy at least we get it, until morning, when everything is different. And I wanna read a poem for my parents who are in Romania. And I would like to read first in Romanian and then the English translation. Urcând. În fiecare an părinții mei descresc de la vară la vară. Se fac mai ușori urcând în bătrânețe ca într-un copac, repătându-și pantofii, jachetele, pălăriile, cămășile, șosetele, mărunțișul din buzunare, poșeta mamei, ceasul de mână al tatălui, verighetele. Mă întreb dacă ei își transferă greutatea asupra mea, dacă eu mă fac mai grea de la an, dacă cuvintele sau visele mele se fac mai dense și le car mai încet ca pe pietre sau plumb în buzunare. Părinții mei se fac din ce în ce mai ușori, ca niște păsări sau baloane, urcând în copacul bătrâneții până când nu-i mai văd. Dar știu că ei sunt încă acolo, urcând, ascunși vederii printre crengile cele mai înalte. And this is climbing. Thank you everyone for listening to us. Climbing. Each year, my parents grow smaller summer to summer. They lighten up, climbing into old age like into a tree, shedding their shoes, coats, hats, shirts, socks, pocket change, mom's purse, dad's wristwatch, their wedding rings. I wonder if they transfer their weight onto me, if I get heavier year to year, if my words or my dreams get denser and I carry them slower like rocks or lead in my pockets. My parents get lighter and lighter like birds or balloons, rising into the old age tree until I can't see them any longer. But I know they're still there, climbing, hidden from view among the tall branches. Thank you so much.
One more time for our friends from Romanian diaspora, led by Claudia Serea. Thank you so much. Mihaela, one question. Isn't it a little cold to be surfing in New Jersey this time of year?
No, yesterday there were tons of surfers in the water, so.
No kidding. What part of New Jersey?
Asbury Park?
Asbury Park. Okay, great. Thank you all four of you for your contribution today, and look forward to hearing the remaining people from the other groups, but hope you stick around and share. So thanks again. Our next group of writers comes to us courtesy of the organizational talents of Judy Turek.J.R. Turek, who is the apparatchik behind the scenes of events and programs across Long Island, really. She's probably one of the secret organizers, less recognized publicly for all our contributions for programming that she does from Oceanside to North Sea and the Long Island Fair. She's currently she's received a number of honors for her important work, but one that I do want to mention is she's now the writer in residence at the Long Island Poetry and Book Repository, Tammy Nuzzo Morgan's operation. And she's been writing a poem a day since Shakespeare. So please now welcome the Long Island Poets, introduced to you by Judy Turek.
Thank you, George. What an intro. Well, hello, world. It's kind of super cool to be able to say that. Thank you, Walt Whitman Birthplace. Welcome back to Caitlin Shea, and congratulations. Thank you, Robert Savino, and much gratitude to George Wallace. It takes massive planning and patience to assemble these programs, and it is appreciated. So thank you, George. I love sharing this program with our fellow poets from Malta and Romania and our audience members. Thank you. I am J.R. Turek, Judy, also known as the Purple Poet worldwide. I am over the moon to bring you 3 stellar Long Island poets. We're going to go west to east to Long Island Sound, and then I will read one poem to close out our segment. And so, our Queen's poet. Madeline Artenberg was photojournalist and street theater performer before falling for poetry. Her work appears in publications such as Rattle. She was a finalist in the Mudfish 2020 contest. She's got a poem, Best of the Net, by Poets Wear Prada, and her debut poetry book, Naming a Hurricane, from Pink Trees Press, is outstanding. Please help me welcome Madeline Artenberg.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone. And Judy, especially for all you do for everybody. So the first poem I wrote 10 years ago, Babel, epigraph. Yiddish was developed from Old High German in the 9th century, the Cambridge Encyclopedia, 2nd edition. Mach schnell, my boyfriend says in his best German general tone, nudges me to hurry, make our train. Not that, mach schnell, not those trains. More like my grandfather calling me to steaming matzo ball soup, his thick glasses fogged, yarmulke askew. Soup of misshapen dumplings, rough-hewn carrots, brothers accusing brothers born from the same broth. Needs a pinch of this or too much of that. Bless those who do not live starched to the white page. And this is From Nothing. My father was born in Ukraine. From Nothing. Thank you, Father, for 6 months of silence after I broke curfew. I begged and begged you by paper, airplane, and alphabet soup to talk to me. When you finally spoke, it was breakfast choices, math equations. There were whispers of your long ago escape in a hay wagon, the hasty voyage to Ellis Island for an 8-to-a-bed life on Hester Street. I wanted to hear more, but you didn't talk about the forced rifle curfews, breaking of glass in Proskurov, a sister's legs gang smashed, history on which to hang the 6-sided yellow star you gave me for graduation. I inherited your flat feet. Thank you, Father. They led me to fields of rustling quills and emptied sky on which to write. Crack, bam. After he lifts my veil, the territory given me is orgasms like M16s, bowling, crushed pretzel meatloaf. On Mahjong night between 1 crack, 2 bam, talk of who has the biggest bedroom set, best vacations, best chance to get pregnant. I can't say. I've been sneaking around with my hippie sister eating rice that isn't white, riding my Brooklyn train to Washington Square anti-war protests. I can't say. I stopped looking up to him after he keeps his eyes closed during Ella Fitzgerald at the Rainbow Room, tells me he can't get past her skin. I can't say I stopped looking at him after he marches me to the clinic, tells me to say, we're not ready. I am ready to toss my veil, scorch earth, footsteps barely on new ground. I fall off the edge. Rock Chick Sonata. I listened to the top 40 muted under the pillow so mother wouldn't yell. Kept a list of each song and artist, put an asterisk when Murray the K announced, moving up to #1, Janis Joplin, piece of my heart. When mother's tirades ended with my arm scratched bloody, I squeezed the wounds, dipped in a pinky, smeared on the bedroom wall the words rock and roll. Prayers turned to frenzied leather and runaway hair. I washed them away before the door was thrown open, the smell of Rutina wafting in. After breakfast, mother scrubbed the floor where the piano once stood, sold for marriage, along with her gold medals for Tchaikovsky, etched with the year mother was 14. When I finally towered over her, I played air guitar at my wedding. Now, when mother visits in dreams, she cries me a broken record. Don't you see why I scratched my sonatas on your skin? You were my Carnegie Hall. And my last poem, drop title. Candleman sells jasmine-scented possibility. I take home a triangular candle, strike a match. Flame stirs blue edge like a peacock feather. Wick glows white. Black ash spreads up from the middle. I pass my hand above the flame, reminded that cool colors emit heat. blow gently, engaging fire and dance. I am cool flesh with waiting wick. I will wait no more. Take a breath, heat moves up my spine. A second breath melts colors. My core is lit, my spine is a wick. I do not wait for candleman. I do not need a match. Thank you very, very much. This is from Naming a Hurricane by Pink Trees Press.
Woohoo, Madeline. Thank you very much, Madeline Artenberg.
Thank
Wow,
you.
powerful stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, and now representing Nassau County, Tony Policano is an Italian-American poet and photographer, born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens and Long Island. He's a board member of the Long Island Poetry Collective and managing editor of Xanadu, a national anthology of poems. He currently moderates weekly Zoom workshops for poets of all levels, which he started during the pandemic to support writers displaced from the in-person workshops. And his debut collection of poetry, Before the Birth Cool, is expected out this summer. Please help welcome Tony Policano.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone. I'm enthralled to be here, be part of this, and even more enthralled by all the poetry I'm hearing today and will hear. In anticipation of Father's Day, I'm going to read a poem that I actually wrote quite a while ago about my daughter. It's called Hydrangeas in August. Follow our steps from the top of the garden, down the sun-drenched stone path, up the stairs, through the sliding glass doors, for an impromptu lunch inside. We waited, way beyond the time reasonable to plan. My daughter dropped her bundle of weeds, yanked by the roots, and I, carrying 2 hydrangea flowers clipped from one stem laden from last night's driving rain, filled the vase in the sink and placed these clouds of periwinkle radiance on the kitchen table. Forgiveness billowing before us, their beheading now history, their executioner absolved. Nina, hungry out of her mind, ravages the refrigerator for anything left over. Basil pesto with angel hair spaghetti from Tuesday, a chunk of hard Romano, a bag of baby carrots grown some fuzz, last week's delicatessen ham, thin sliced, breaded fried eggplant stealthily close to the cusp of expiration. And she's eating with her 10-year-old fingers, the fridge door open wide, cold escaping, hands unwashed, plates and utensils still in the cabinet. And I want to scold her, eat like a human. But I realize that's just what she's doing, my stomach growling simpatico as I spread the spoils of our hunting gathering on the glaring white table. And with pane de casa, rubbery from the fridge, we eat in silence, sporadically, retrieving other plates that might be salvageable. How blessed is our sustenance. How thankful I am for hydrangeas in August. Everything blooms in its proper time, and in the garden of time dies. After lunch, I sit quietly, watching Nina back outside, pulling up weeds by their roots in the yard. And see this, the second poem I'm going to read is called AI, Artificial Intelligence, AI Poetica. You know, that's really scary technology that's looking to, wow, it's, can't even think of what it's looking to do. AI Poetica. You can write licks with the best of them and faster than anyone alive, or for that matter, dead. I've seen you clip the pants off the greatest and try them on for size. And if you have a few failures, well, so what? The greatest all have their flops. I can't say I never saw it coming with the digital revolution, or should I say insurrection, well underway. And I know it's still in its infancy, but these are some flirty moves you're making, baby. Come to think of it, it seems you're now dancing on your own metrical feet like a Latin lover, seductively whispering into my ear as we salsa across the heart-pounding floor of metaphor. When you pine about a love that's gone, or internalize the cold feel of a tombstone between the eyes, then tell me the chill travels the ventricles of your heart, and that's what makes your knees shake in synchronicity with the wind through cemetery trees. Well, you've got me. You sound sincere as fresh graffiti on a warehouse wall. What am I supposed to do? Tell me if I fall body and soul for a poem from a poet who's a non-persona. Now, I could fall in love with an anonymous. Anonymous has been with us forever, stirring the imagination with melancholy, marking a life lived, just not properly christened. But for you, can my soul be attached to a thing of beauty that came into existence through an assembly of binary code and data collection and neural networking and out pirating, approaching uncontested, limitless boundaries? Where is all this going? I mean, the future isn't what it used to be, but fill in the blanks for yourself. Isn't that what you do best? And my last poem is called The Definition of Blue. Lying alone at night with a broken heart is the definition of blue. The definition of blue is in a refugee's eyes. Blue is the color of ocean and sky. Ocean and sky embrace continents and nations. As nations percolate a robust distrust of others. Others are not your blood and kin. Others are the faces that don't resemble the face you see in the mirror while shaving. Shaving is the act of removing by repetitive, decisive strokes what is considered unsightly. Unsightly means not pleasing to look at. A refusal to look at what is not pleasing is denial. Denial is a festering wound you tell yourself isn't so bad. Isn't so bad as a chronic condition that won't go away. Won't go away is not leaving one's home, family, land, or country. In other words, digging in. Digging in is an invitation to start eating with gusto. But it's also facing life issues that seem unsurmountable by means of fortitude and patience. Patience, the ability to endure difficult people. Difficult people are sure that they are right and everyone else wrong. Wrong and right are the consequences of perception, but perception taken to the next level is compassionate discernment. Compassionate discernment is not judging with an agenda, but listening for God's voice. God's voice speaks in low whispers in the heart. Lying alone at night with a broken heart is the definition of blue. Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Tony Policano. Can't wait. Before the Birth of Cool, coming soon. And our third poet today, representing Suffolk County, Deborah Hauser, Poet Laureate of Suffolk County, woohoo, New York, the author of Ennui from the Diagnostical and Statistical Field Guide of Feminine Disorders. Her poems and book reviews have appeared or are forthcoming in Ms. Magazine, Women's Review of Books, The Kenyon Review, Prairie Schooner, Bellevue Review, Calyx. Please help me welcome Deborah Hauser.
Thank you, Judy. Shiny and new. Like all my friends in 10th grade, I tried to lose my virginity. We wore white lace skirts to school, ready to be carried away to the nuptial bed on a moment's notice. Imitating Madonna, We practiced rolling around on our beds, writhing like Abigail in the Crucible or Linda Blair, not understanding what possessed us or the power we possessed. More than a boyfriend, I wanted a pet lion. I wanted to fly to the real Venice, not the small world Disney version I sneered at on family vacations. No one knew how much time I spent alone, waiting for the video to play on MTV. In her tank top and fingerless gloves, my friend Jennifer looked just like Madonna. When it was my turn to thrash on the bed, the girls danced around me while I held a teddy bear tight to my crotch and watched the silver cross bounce against Jennifer's breasts while she cheered me on. Thank you again, Judy, for putting this together. Thank you to Caitlin Shea and Walt Whitman Birthplace. Thank you to George Wallace and Robert Savino, and to all the readers here and everyone who came out to listen. I'm very pleased to be representing poetry on Long Island. We have a vibrant poetry community here, and I appreciate this opportunity to extend that community and make new connections. And after hearing your brother poems, I just added this one in, begging for it. B is the baby I never had, his bouncing blue ball not to be confused with my first boyfriend's blue balls. Carnival barkers try to guess my weight. Doctors estimate my revised life expectancy. I am beholden to bees. A spoonful of honey is supposed to abate seasonal allergies. Barbed wire. Trees learn to swallow it. I need a wire cage around my body, my horse, my house, my May Swenson. Where will I ride? Smile, strange men tell me. Mostly I comply, but just barely. Born this month of diamonds, I'm a real gem, I've been told. Buy a house in the suburbs, be a real woman, birth vaginally, breastfeed. Stop bemoaning your bargain basement childhood. Stop blanching at every awful thing that happened in that barn. Some begonias are blue. They are begging for it. Black and blue are the colors of my rainbow. Be mine, be true. Brother, I miss you. Brother, I still don't believe you went and drowned down in the bayou. And this is about summer in the suburbs, and the title is a lyric from a Van Halen song. All flavors and push-ups too. That summer, the heat was palpable. We lit matches and passed our fingers through the flame. We wanted to burn. It was the last year we would play Marco Polo at the public pool. Fueled by high C and pixie sticks, we cartwheeled down the street, spun ourselves until we collapsed on the lawn, dizzy and weak. I imagine this is what love would feel like when David Lee Roth picked me out of the audience and rescued me. But our real idols were the older girls who hung out on the corner and took the train to the city. They swaggered in denim cutoffs and tube tops. Their cherry lips left stains on their beer cans and cigarette butts. Tongues Twizzler red like the Rolling Stones logo. Jessica swore she saw one of them French a boy under the bleachers. Forbidden lip gloss, we sucked and bit our lips like the women in the waterlogged Harlequin paperbacks we passed back and forth. In Laura's basement, we put pool balls in our training bras and practiced cocking our hips, studied how the cool girls flipped their feathered hair and looked down at us from kohl-rimmed eyes. All flavors and push-ups too, we sang along to a portable radio. One afternoon, the prettiest one, Melissa, lifted her chin ever so slightly in my direction, as if to say, "Hey kid, you're all right." It felt like the time a down power line sprayed sparks on the sidewalk, and we took turns getting as close to it as we dared. And I believed I could leave this place. Where I grew up, the houses had paneled basements. For fun, we held our breath until we lost consciousness. I envied my friend's concussion, courted injury, clung to boys with motorcycles. Reading was my superpower. It rendered me invisible. Plath tasted metallic like a split lip. Wolf smelled like cold, wet sand under the boardwalk, where we drank Boone's Farm wine straight from the bottle the night the girl who wore Doc Martens to the beach slipped a copy of Sexton's Transformations into my macrame purse. She got pregnant and moved to Staten Island after graduation. The stained paperback is shelved in the den. I put the kids to bed and take a glass of Merlot out onto the deck. The first sip is bitter, but warm, with strawberry undertones. Thank you.
Wow, Deb. Wow. Thank you. And wow. All three Long Island poets. What a representation of Long Island. Wow. Okay, so just enough time. I am going to read one poem. And it's fittingly from the just released 3 weeks ago. I helped to host the book launch. This is the Nassau County Voices in Verse. That's from the Bards Initiative. Okay. Scribe. I am the words written on the backside corner of your page. The doodles that are cuneiform translations of geometric analogies. I am the scriptures written on sea crests of Galilee. Parts of prophecies written on grains of sand at Iwo Jima. Words split from countless stones of sacrifice through millennium. I am the love letters written and never sent. The unsigned Valentines never attested to, but saved in 50 years of dusty attic droppings. I am the river of ink that floods the Euphrates long before Gilgamesh rules his kingdom. I am the storm of ink that swallows Atlantis, and I alone know the truth. I am the keeper of alphabets strung together to battle life and celebrate death in bloody verses too long, too complex to commit to parchment, pages that would already have returned to dust long before the letters of your name were invented, long before the stars breathed light, long before I came to be. I am the living memoirs of no-note suicides, of stillborn and smothered by dirty blanket babies, the scarlet letters shamed upon victimized breast, the scroll of innocent women charred for witchcraft, for adultery, for fighting for the right to vote. I am the numbers tattooed on forearms, but never shown, never documented, never burned on a Maui beach. I am the never-ending flow of ink, never stopping pen of injustices, the law of guilt to gavel precedence over prejudice, the transcriber of death dictated to me in sentences of 25 to life. I am the calligrapher of dreams, tinseled inside clouds, possessed by syllables wrenched from a purple sunset, the one who sweeps the floor for words you toss away. I am the one to tuck them in my inkwell for someone more worthy. Definition, poet. Thank you all. Thank you, George.
Wonderful, Judy, Turek, and our friends from Long Island. So many good friends here today. Thank you all for representing from I think Oceanside to Montauk. We have a pound for pound. We've got a great assemblage of poets here in Long Island, and It's good to be able to share with people from other parts of the country. Judy, that poem that you just read, is that in the anthology that you just mentioned?
Yes, yes, it's in the Nassau County Voices in Verse. It's out just 3 weeks, and so
Good. So I'll probably be hearing from that. And Deborah, I did want to mention, although I could mention something for everybody, that I wanted to thank you for the work you did in getting the Teen Laureate program moving for the second Teen Laureate here in Suffolk County, which we just celebrated a week or so ago. You did a great job of organizing that, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone on the panel who helped.
So without going through everybody's resume, all the accomplishments of everybody, we'll move now to the third group of people. And I'm very pleased to be able to have represented here on Poets Building Bridges, poets that have some association with the Maltese poetry tradition and Malta itself, which I learned a lot about through Marianne, and having met her in various locations and various programs in New York City, and learned a lot about the Maltese oral tradition of poetry, which is a remarkable thing if you don't know about it. The oral tradition of poetry in Malta is something to pay attention to for its unique depth and quality. Marianne is a lifelong New Yorker. I think she was born here, but is from Maltese origins. And I think she got started, I don't know the resume in front of me, but by writing a song for the Girls Club of New York, and has been instrumental in doing a number of things in collaboration with me. We translated one of my poems into Maltese for a video. And most recently, she may want to tell us about it. She just got back from Nepal, and I hope that she weathered the travel well, so that she can represent us here today. So please welcome Marianne Sciberras and her friends from the Maltese diaspora.
Hi, thank you so much, George. I just want to say again, thank you for inviting me and the Maltese poets. And I'm so happy to be part of this, even though it was an interesting trip to Nepal, but after a week, it went downhill, just sick with the runs and the blah and the cold and then no appetite, whatever. So I might just read one poem that I actually wrote when I was alone in my room, sick as a dog, and a butterfly came to my window. So I might just do that one. But I'm just very happy to introduce the three distinguished poets from Malta. And I'm so happy they agreed to join. So first, I'm going to start with Nadia, Mifsud, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it, but Mutscher, that's right?
Yeah, more or less.
Nadia was born in Malta, and in 1976, she moved to France in 1998, and she currently lives in Lyon, where she writes, teaches, and sometimes translates. To date, she has published 3 books of poetry, 1 chapbook, 1 novel, and a collection of short stories. As a member of the Maltese cultural organization, Inisyamed, she has been involved in the organization of the Malta Mediterranean Literature Festival since 2011, which takes place every summer toward the end of August. I also want to say she was awarded the Poet Laureate of Malta in 2022. So we're very happy to have her. And please, let's welcome her right now. And Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay, and thank you, George, and thank you, Marianne, for this invitation. It was really great to hear all these very powerful lines, I have to say. So thank you for that. I haven't heard poetry so beautiful for quite a long while now, so I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to take you to Lyon, where I've been living for the past 19 years. And more precisely to one of the most picturesque squares of the city, which is called La Place des Célestins. That's where the main theater is. I don't usually write in English, so the first two poems are more like attempts at writing in English. Picture this: a dozen magnolia trees, their myriad of pinks and purples, their undiluted splendor, scent and all, so widely enticing, so wantonly unfurled on unsuspecting passers-by. Footsteps checked, senses arrested, seized by a sudden need to dally. Picture the theater, usually so photogenic, looking almost forlorn, its dull regal rigor reduced to a simple backdrop. Draped across its facade, the Ukrainian flag nudges us into not forgetting how severely bliss can be curtailed. For a minute, maybe two, time stalls, and with it, my thoughts. Picture the sky, a lazy pastel blue, as if it were still getting used to this, except for a white-haired 80-year-old tottering across the square in her knee-length cobalt coat, her cane gentle with the fallen petals. I wonder who is older, the trees or the woman. I wonder how well they know each other. Then, slipping back into ordinariness, into the foul dreadness of back streets with their peeling doors and glued graffiti, I cannot but truths, the unkempt secrets that sometimes spill out of our mouths, always so inadvertently, always in mistuned colors. And another one from Lyon, which is called Kintsugi on the 5:45 p.m. commuter train. Kintsugi is the one word my whole self latches onto as I commute home, head awash with pain, senses altered, mind befuddled by this sham choreography which hems us in, day out. Bodies swaying in unison as the train jerks, then wheezes back into motion. The mercurial sky flitting by, unnoticed. The blue glare of cell phones picking drawn faces, making them look like they're wearing their loneliness inside out. Shoulders touch, every now and again, ever so slightly. Someone grunts. The rest of us choose to ignore him. As the train heaves into a station, there is a flurry of jostling and elbowing and odors shifting. Then, sullen silence again as eyes revert to screens, gleaning what little comfort they can from the seemingly seamless lives of virtual others. Kintsugi. I think of all the engineered smiles stowed for the night in office drawers, how we stand so close, sharing our body heat, gazes expertly averted lest we see through each other. Kintsugi. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I hesitate. It might be my ex again, the one I didn't dare sleep with when I was 16 for reasons of sanity. The only one who still calls me now. Now, deftly unbuttoning the past with some other one-liner of his. Kintsugi. Thank you. And now I'm going to take you to Malta. So the poems that I'll be reading now have been translated by Miriam Kalea, who is a dear friend of mine, but she's also a poet, besides being a translator, and she happens to live in the United States. And I'm sure that if she's not online today, she'll be watching the recording. And these poems will be published by Poetry Wala in India in the coming months. July. The ice cream man has been teasing us for weeks from across the street. Letters in exercise books drag themselves along half-melted lines. You turn up, and our minds empty with the same vigor as schoolyards. Discarded uniforms spend the summer shrinking in wardrobes. Math problems snooze in ditched school bags. July. Pickled onions ferment on the balcony. Prickly pears soak in a zinc tub. A clock naps on the bedside table in long, drawn-out afternoons when everything is silent, everything is slowed, except for crickets, and my younger cousin laughing, somersaulting on the large bed where our gran became a woman. July. Our skin, the taste of sea, our wet hair dripping down our backs, the tips of our fingers, 10 paper-thin fans dipping bread in olive oil. July. Making out in secret, hands roaming under low-cut tops, fingers playing with flies, breaths heavy, lips surrendering drunkenly to new suntan lines. A pressing heat, a disheveling heat, something inside us cracks, quivers, seesaws. Bingo numbers echo monotonously just a stone's throw away, and we prefer to believe we'll never grow old, not knowing which is the most beautiful Catherine wheel, that which flares inside us, or those bouquets emblazing the sky. The following poem is actually, the translation is still work in progress, but I think that it's important to go beyond the postcard image of Malta, blue sea, blue sky, an idyllic holiday destination. So it was written back in 2020 during the first lockdown, the first COVID lockdown here in France, and people were celebrating Easter. And at the same time, not so far away from the Maltese coast, there were 4 boats with about 258 people on board, and they were reported to be adrift. And unfortunately, the Maltese authorities did not take any action whatsoever to conduct a rescue. So this is also one of the sad truths about the Mediterranean and about our country. So it's called Mare Nostrum. How can we ever look at this sea in the same way, entire days pondering it from afar, hardly daring to set the casement ajar? Just the sight of it stirs a yearning deep as July and August combined. We can hardly stomach the stories that the sea is dragging to our shores, stories of people nobody wants, of waves like jaws, of wind that strikes a bitch slap and another. It's almost best that we're stuck indoors. God forbid their desperate cries should reach our ears. God forbid we should get infected by the woe that has ensnared them. When will they go quiet? Have they? Cold as ice, hard as wood. I wonder what we'll tell our children, our children's children, on the day when from our sea they fetch a bone instead of a cockle shell and come dropping it triumphantly into our lap. Maybe it won't be too late then for us to start undoing our faults. I don't know how much time I've got left. Do I have time for another poem?
No, I don't think so. I think
That's
it's
okay.
10
That's fine.
minutes. Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I
Yes.
hope that Imelda or John will read something in Maltese so that everybody here can hear this language, which is beautiful, by the way.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
hope
very
so. Okay, so next up is Imelda. And let's see, Imelda Serracino Inglot, was born in Hazebuch, Malta on January 4th, 1946. She studied at the University of Malta and 2 years at Cincinnati University, worked as a pharmacist, and has since retired. A member of the Maltese Poets Society and International Society of Poets, her work may be found in anthologies of Maltese poets and in her book, Metamorphosis. So we're very happy to have you on board. And by the way, I thought women should go first. I hope you don't mind, John. Anyway, I know. So I'm handing it over to you, Imelda, and you have 10 minutes and enjoy. Thanks. Imelda, you would just have to unblock your audio so we can hear you. Okay? Uh-oh. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I'm gonna try to Facebook her. Okay, we got it. Yay.
You got it?
Yes, go ahead now. Very good.
Okay. Good evening, and I am honored to participate with such distinguished poets. So I start with my poem in Maltese, so you can hear our beautiful language, and it is called L'Swed Sabir. Black is beautiful. L'Swed Sabir. Sewda u wis sabiħa. Miexja fuq il-catwalk bajnej suwed, misterjużi, ġilda lewn lebonju. L-irġiel jikruha bħarsithom, joffrula l-flus jew dek. Imma hi ma tagħmilx għall-flus tanqas tifkir, hi mara matura, b'saħħa ta' oġol, fraġili bħal fjura. Hi ta' feruqa, qalba immara x-xogħol. Ruġieħ ta' tqala, il-frosta tas-sidin, iżerrija ta' skjavi ta' ilu li ħadmu l-eliq tat-tabak u stinkaw fid-djar is-sidin. Issa il-ħelsin il-marka tagħha u nura fis-suċċess. I can read it in English so they would know what I was saying. Black is beautiful. She is beautiful as she walks down the catwalk with those mystery eyes and ebony skin. Men devour her and offer gifts of gold, but she is not moved by riches or praise. She is her own woman, strong as an ox, fragile as a daffodil. She knows her bare soul, the sweat of hard labor, the screams of childbirth, and the marks of the master's whip. She is the seed of slaves that work tobacco fields and toiled at masters' wealthy mansions. Her freedom is her birthright now, and her honor her success. And I was inspired because now Malta is a cosmopolitan place. And where I lived in Slima, we meet people of all nationality. And one day I was in a sort of nice clothes shop, and this black lady or woman walks in, and she was so beautiful, tall and dressed beautifully, and I was imagining her as a model walking the catwalk. And then I sort of start imagining her roots, you know, and that is the gist of the poem. Okay? Thank you very much. And again, I'm honored to represent Malta among you. Thank you very much.
Keep going. You have 7 more minutes. Do you have more poems, Imelda?
More?
Yeah,
I can find,
you
I
can
can
have
read
7 minutes left.
I can read a short one if I find it on my
That's
docs.
what
Yeah. Well, I have one called, let me see, it won't come, don't worry. Yes, it's very short. It's in Maltese, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
I read it in
Well-
Maltese. Opera in the city, it's called. Malaria la scia, titla l'incensabile, dal fuci tat-tenur, man-noti furtive lacrime, id-dmuħ ta' ħafna snin jevapora u jitħallat mal-inċens, jisir rjub tal-fidda u ginseng, jċibka fid-dina u ruħi tixxabbar biex tilħaq il-kewbit fid-dina. I was attending a concert by 3 tenors, 3 Maltese tenors, in the piazza in Valletta. And I was inspired, by the voices, and it was like incense going up to the sky and coming back to fill my heart with all those emotions that opera only can succeed in filtering in your soul. That's okay?
Very nice, very beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank
You
you.
still have 4 minutes.
What? I read another one if I find one?
Yes, please.
I would read. I'm finding them on my doc. So if I find one quickly, I might read one in English. Let me see.
Yes.
Oh, I have it. Let me see. I don't know if I can find one in English quickly, however. But I have one in Maltese probably also. Yes. Moment mystiku, mystic moment. Rida fuq ġwina ħbojot, il-eqqu rotob, mal-kordi tal-anġeli ċelesti. Ġismi mejjet, qalbi waqfet, imma fil l-elettriku ġo moħħi għadu għaddej. Sajjetta mis-xejn, misset il-fil. L-elettriku beda jizdid, u tlajt fl-għoli lejn il-qamar, ritmu jizdid bil-ħeffa. U jintila l-fuq il-fuq, sakemm sibt nindur mal-istilel, bla ġisem, imma jien, sejra l-bot il-bot li l-in mill-univers. And this in English, mystic moment, lately I was at an operation of the gallbladder. And I was sort of, it was a bit traumatic. And after I was in what you call, it has a name, I can, out of the body sensation. So I was writing this after that, where I was sort of my body is there, but my soul leaving and going up sort of to the stars and joining the choir of angels and then sort of like an electric like an electric shock comes by and you're again sort of going around not knowing whether my body is an electrical thing or a sort of a mortal thing or something relating to electricity. I mean, it's difficult a bit to say it, but I'll translate it later and send it to you if you want. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sharing, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, is that all for now?
Yeah.
Imelda? Is that all for now, Imelda?
That's for all. Yeah, that's all for now.
That's all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Grazie in Maltese.
Moshe, yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, so now we're going to introduce John Peter Portelli. And so we have John is the professor emeritus at OISE, University of Toronto. Besides 11 academic books, he has published 8 collections of poetry, 2 collections of short stories, and a novel. Wow. Originally from Malta, he now lives in Toronto, between Toronto and Malta and beyond. So please, let's welcome John Peter Portelli. And thank you so much. Take it away. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Marianne, for organizing this session and for inviting me. I'm glad to meet all my colleague poets, especially Nadia and Imelda.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm currently in Malta. When Marianne invited me, I was supposed to be in Toronto, but unfortunately, I was diagnosed with lymphoma, and I'm getting treatment here in Malta. I'm moving forward with courage, faith, and so on. So I'm still in good spirits, okay? I will be reading 5 short poems, 2 based on my visit to Palestine, and supposedly one of them very relevant for what is happening, unfortunately, today. 1 written in Canada, and the other 2 in Malta. I will start, all of the poems are included in my recent collection in English entitled Here Was, which has been translated and published in Romanian, Italian, Arabic, Farsi, and shortly even in Turkish. I will start with the poem entitled itself, Here Was. As you drove, I overheard you crying, green tears trickle along the wall that divides. Here was a Palestinian valley. Here was a Palestinian village. Here was a Palestinian city. Here was a Palestinian orchard. Here, you shouted. A nation erased, rectangular concrete structures. Slowly, we entered Al-Quds, and you let your hair down, out of which trickled olive oil. The second one, also written in Palestine, is entitled Here Among the Debris. Frolicking amongst this and that, captivated by the pointy breast of a young woman, her hair swaying in the wind and the suburbs of eternity. A bronze and beautiful face, Nawrat. From al-Faham, you ran away, too pretty to stay. And today we weep, we gaze at this tranquil sea in Haifa, reciting the divine ballad of Darwish as we sip Arab coffee under a palm tree, spellbound by the sweetness of cardamom here among the debris. Maybe I should read this also in Maltese to give another sense of the language.
Yes.
In this would translate as follows. Awn Alp Lirmishk. Awn Alp Lirmishk nintlieb bejn dan u dak, nitpaxxew bis-sider ippuntat ta' mara żagħżugħa xara jittajjar mar-riħ fis-subborg tal-eternità. Samrani u ħelu wiċċek Nawrat, rabtilhom minn il-faħam sabiħa wisq int għalihom. U nitbekkew issa quddiem dal-baħar kajman illum ta' Ħajfa, nannu l-anja ħelwa ta' Dardwix, u nsoffu kafe jarbi taħt siġra tal-palm, nissaħru bil-ħlewwet tal-kardamom hawn qalb l-irmexk, nitlibu bejn dan u dak, nistennew il-ħitan tas-sabborgi jitmermru, ħantiru għal dejjem. The next poem is entitled Quebec City, inspired by an unfortunate event that took place some 4 or 5 years ago in Quebec City. 6 dead in shooting at Quebec City Mosque, 2 men arrested. Allahu Akbar, hailed the Muezzin, God is great, he whispered in the stillness of the mosque as blood dripped from the pig's head, hate brought to your door. Bon appetit smudged on the wall, their swastika of intolerance. Allahur Rahman, you spoke in unison, soul pried away by colonial clemency, concealing your identity beneath the scarf that masks and unveils and masks. Allahul Karim, but where's the mercy Christians claim for themselves? Tattered by their bullets, the peace of your prayers disturbed, your communion slain. So much for liberté, égalité, fraternité. Je me souviens, you rightly retorted. What of La Belle Provence? Never had these words meant less. The other poem, 2 poems are in Malta. One is about the sea, entitled Nothing. What would I do without the sea, melancholy and wild, silent and taunting? Without it, there would be neither desire nor promise. Its azure vastness sucks me in, then spits me out where it pleases, when it pleases, as it pleases. What would I do without the sea? Every day it talks to me gently, enticing me, promising me what I do not want, what I would die for, what I lust for. Without the sea? Without it, no thoughts, no words, no inspiration, no motivation. The sea, its nothingness shatters me. I am defeated. The last poem is entitled, Does That Come Easier If You Accept It? Written a bit in wrote because in my family I cannot talk about that. Everybody starts criticizing me. You're always talking about death, as if death is not part of life. At any rate, does that come easier if you accept it? I told you I do not want to die in a God-forsaken hospital in Toronto, tied to a bed, buried in tubes, gaping at pale green ceiling from a long windowless corridor, breathless. One should be allowed to choose where and how to die. An event of a lifetime, I can still afford to jest. You wait out your life and your death, nothing more. How alluring these gold-studded fields of clover, the buzzing of bees as they make off with the nectar, fearful of their queen's decree, work nourishes the soul and crushes the body. Does that come easier if you accept it? I often peek over the rugged cliffs above Jnana Bay or Dingley Cliffs. My unshod feet gingerly brave the nip of the rocks amid thyme, rock sanctuary, and milk thistle, and serene sleek their balance on the edge. This is where I long to fade away, drifting with the swallows, unburdened by purpose or thought. To my mother, I was a gift. She named me John. Flawless was my life in her eyes. Who am I to you? Your one love, amore, sweetheart, darling. That may seem cruel, but I was your chosen love, and that I shall remain. When the bell tolls for me 5 strikes at a time, lay me there basking in the sun, on the scarlet sand. Let the sea comfort me, inspire me, wash off my mistakes, gradually become one with this all unending sea to gently burn me far out. Does that come easier if you accept it? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
That was beautiful. And I just want to thank all three poets.
Marianne,
Yeah.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you. I forgot to say the last four poems were translated from Maltese by Norbert Bugeja and Irene Mangione. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And I just will have a few minutes, and I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'm going to read my poem called Butterfly, which I don't know. Well, when I was in Kathmandu and it stuck in my room, and I just kind of got inspired by a butterfly outside my window. So it's called Butterfly. Come, butterfly, come. With your white, sorry, with your white and black laced coat fluttering past my window. Come by me, see what I see. You are free, a few hours more. You persist in utter joy. I, a human, and must endure longer hours, to be sure. No one ever really knows how long. Butterfly, butterfly, in Kathmandu, it's nice to see you. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just get emotional.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you all the different people from all the different groups that are with us today. On behalf of the Walt Whitman Birthplace and Robert Savino, who has been the MC, I'd like to thank you all for participating, in particular the very enthusiastic way that you support each other in the chat room, commenting on the poems one by one. This, I have to tell you, has been one of the really most enjoyable and polished and professional gatherings we've had, of excellent work and excellent craftsmanship on the part of all of you from your different places, different locations. And I want to congratulate you all on the fine work you're doing and your support of Poets Building Bridges. We're going to take a month or two off. In September, we'll return for the second half of the season with some poets from southern New Mexico, led by John Roche. Some poets from India, led by an old friend of mine, Sriram Gokul from Tamil country. And Claudia will be back with a couple of other poets from New Jersey, and the Red Wheelbarrow Poets. These are poets that gather in Rutherford, New Jersey, and hometown of William Carlos Williams. So the season is going to recommence then, a little bit later, September 21st. But until then, do watch for the video of this, which will appear on YouTube in a couple of days. Thank you all of you who came in the audience, some of you from prior shows, some of you just faithful listeners who like to be here, and I thank you all for that. Poets Building Bridges is in its third season. We hope to be able to do this for many years to come with the support and technical and emotional support, really, of the Walt Whitman Birthplace. So once again, thank you to the Walt Whitman Birthplace for making this happen. And we'll now conclude with signing off. And stick around if you want to afterwards. We'll talk a little bit, but we'll finish up with the recording now.